For this lesson, you need to open the sample file Invoice 1 from your Sample Files folder. Let's begin by looking at the stock worksheet of the sample file. And you can see that this retailer has created a stock code in column A to make it easier to refer to each of the watches in stock. He's used the first two letters of the watch's description and the last two numbers of the date of manufacture to make the stock codes easier to remember. So you can see that the code BR48 is the 1948 Breitling duograph, and the code CA74 is the 1974 Cartier tank. Let's now look on the invoice worksheet. And on the invoice worksheet, you can see that the code CA74 is going to be used to return the description from the stock worksheet. This is going to be done using a VLOOKUP function. Let's now discuss how the VLOOKUP function is going to work. The retailer will enter the code CA74 in cell A6. In cell B6, there'll be a VLOOKUP function that will take the code CA74 and look on the stock worksheet. It will look in column A down the list until it finds CA74, and once it's found a perfect match, it will return the description to the right, Cartier tank 18K, which will then appear in cell B6 on the invoice worksheet. Now we need to make all of that work. But before we put a VLOOKUP function into cell B6, there's an important task to undertake, and that is to go to the stock worksheet and change the range here into a table. In Excel 2013, it's best practice to always use tables with VLOOKUPs and never use ranges or named ranges. Named ranges are going to be discussed in session 4. So we need to convert this range into a table and give the table a meaningful name. I think stock would be a good name for the table. So I'll click anywhere inside the range, insert on the ribbon, in the tables group Table, and then I'll click OK. And you can see I've created a table from the range. Now I'm going to give the table a meaningful name. So that's Table Tools Design on the ribbon, and in the Properties group, instead of Table 1, I'll call my table Stock. And it's important not to forget to press the Enter key to save the value. Now I have my stock table, I can insert my VLOOKUP function onto the invoice worksheet. So I'll click on the invoice worksheet, click in cell B6, and then Formulas on the ribbon, and in the Function library, in the Lookup and Reference group, at the bottom of the list, there's the VLOOKUP function. Notice that the VLOOKUP function has 4 arguments. 3 of them are required, shown in boldface, and range lookup is an optional argument. Let's begin with the first argument, lookup value. If I read the help, it says, lookup value is the value to be found in the first column of the table, and can be a value, a reference, or a text string. Well, the thing that we're going to look for in the first column of the table is the stock code. That's in cell A6, so I click in cell A6. Next is the table array, and as I said earlier, it's best practice to always use a table for this argument. So I'll click in the table array box, and I'll simply type the word stock to reference my stock table. Next, col index num. Let's click on this box, and the help says the column number in the table from which the matching value should be returned. The first column in the table is column 1. Let's look at the stock table now on the stock worksheet to see which would be the most appropriate column to return. Well, VLOOKUP doesn't think of columns as having letters. It thinks of them as having numbers. And column A is number 1, column B number 2, C number 3, and so on. So because we want to return the watch description, we need to return column number 2. So for the col index num, I'll simply type the number 2. And now let's look at that last optional argument, range lookup. Beginners often overlook this vital argument because it's optional. If you leave this argument blank, VLOOKUP will return an inexact match. That means that if it doesn't find the stock code, it will return the next best thing. And that isn't what you want at all. If it doesn't find the stock code, you'd like VLOOKUP to return an error. So it's vitally important that you set this last argument to false. So what are the circumstances under which you'd use true for this argument? Well, there are some special cases when that's useful, and you'll discover such a special case in lesson 324. I'm now going to click OK and test my VLOOKUP. Well, you can see that it's worked perfectly well for the Cartier tank, but let's try a different stock code, the 1948 Breitling duograph. So that would be BR, the first 2 letters of Breitling, and 48, the last 2 numbers of the year. I press the Enter key, and yes, it's brought back the Breitling duograph. How about the 1966 Rolex? That will be RO66. And when I press the Enter key, yes, it's brought back the Rolex perfectly. And I did want an error to be brought back if the stock code didn't exist. So let's enter ZZ99, that I know doesn't exist, and yes, that is returning an error. But now I'll go back to the Cartier tank by typing CA74, and there's the description for my Cartier tank. Later in this session, we'll further develop and improve this workbook to produce a really useful invoicing application. But for now, all that remains is to save your work, and I'm going to save with the new name Invoice 2, and as usual, I'll save to the folder above, my sample files folder. I click the Save button, and you've now completed lesson 322. Use a VLOOKUP function for an exact lookup.